Welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. I'm Jeff Allison, and thank you for watching.
Welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. Today's project, we're back on the Chevelle floor pan, the trunk pan, and I'm going to be working on that area, the passenger side where the jack and the spare tire would have mounted. And my plan is to try and mirror image the ribs that are pressed into the driver's side. I'm going to mirror image that, put them on this side. That's the sheet metal we're going to be using. This is some paint locked 16 gauge, a little heavier than what's actually here, but that gives me a little more material to weld to. And about to start doing my layout. Like I said, I'm just going to copy this, but mirror image it, and then we'll cut all this shape out and shape this and put all the bends in it. So stay tuned. I guess the first step was I laid out a bunch of lines here so that I had an idea of how much I want to cut out and where I want to put stuff. The next step is I need to mark where this bend, the little bend for the angle up there is, and then there's two bends in here that are real soft. They're not a crisp bend like this, or even this one's pretty tight. So I need to mark the center of each of those bends and go ahead and get those drawn in. And then once I have that drawn in, then I'll draw in where the ribs are going to go. And then I'll put these bends in it before I roll my ribs, because once that rib's in there, it's going to be nearly impossible to bend. The way they do it is it's all stamped in a big machine, and so it's all done in one big shot. So I don't have that process available to me. So what we are going to do is lay it out on the 16 gauge, and we'll start with, I'm going to use this side of my sheet metal as the edge of the pan, and this back edge as this dashed line that I've drawn up here on the top side of this. So working from those 2 points, I can start working out. This should be 7/16 of an inch to this bend, because I plan to flange the trunk pan here and then lay my new sheet metal up on top of it. Additionally, as I lay these out, I also need to know what the angles are. So, got a couple different kinds of angle finders here. And it looks to me like we have about a 47-degree bend on this first one. I was trying to see if there were any bends from when it was shipped. There, everything gets kind of mangled up a little bit during shipping. And even measuring it that way, it comes out to about 46 degrees. So I'm going to put I think I'm going to do is put about a 45-degree bend in it. That way it's a little under bent, and then I can put some pressure on it to get it to where it matches up exactly. So I'm going to mark this for 45 to 46 degrees. And then our next bend, we're working on the center here. 4 7/8 of an inch lower. And I always use a reference for myself. So if I'm working off the top of the sheet metal, if that sheet metal is coming up like this, to get that 45-degree down, or 45-degree angle, I have to bend it down. Whereas this one would be an up bend, and this one would be an up bend. So that's just my reference, but it keeps me from hopefully bending the material the wrong direction. Yeah. I need angles on both of these.
Looks like it's going to be 23 degrees for the first one.
And here's the next one, which is probably going to be another 22 or 23 degrees. Makes sense, because then come up 23, up 23, up 45, and you get yourself a 90-degree bend up there. And what I mean by that is, by this being 22 or 23, but both of these being roughly 22.5 degrees, this one being 45 degrees, this and this plane here are both level. So that's why I say it makes sense that with this one being 45, that these are going to be some combination of 45 degrees. And measuring the bottom one, it's about as close to 22.5 as I can measure. With those lines laid out, the last bend that I have to worry about is this kick up in the back here. And I'm going to go ahead and mark it for the whole thing. I think my plan currently is to cut it off right there. And the only reason I'm even going that high is because on the other side, this rib, this one's popped up, and we'll be doing a inverted or a concave rib, actually goes right up into that bend. So I want to be able to put enough of it in there, enough of the sheet metal, that I can change that. So I need to plan for where this bend is, though, so that I can line everything back up. There's actually a bend on that as well, so this is going to get bent. So I'm going to bend it up 45, or down 45, and then bend this edge up 45, and that'll keep this lip parallel to this lip, or to that this lip parallel to this floor. So this is a bend up.
And this thing. I'm cutting on this line.
Alright, so we want to lay out these ribs on here, mirror image, so this straight rib that doesn't have a turn at the top, that dies into this kick up. First one, I'm going to lay it out, and it's going to go all the way down this way. So again, and we're just working to the middle of everything. So, coming from, and we've got to work for, from the edges that we know about. So we're going to work from the top of this bend. In the middle of this bend for any measurements. Measure from this bend up here down to those. The things. So we need to know where this line is, because that's where the die stops and it's rolling. This other part is just as the die is approaching it. And then we'll need to know where the center of this and this is, so that we can get all of the angles on there, all of the ribs in there. So first, let's lay the straight lines. I've already done some measuring, as you can see. So it's 3 inches, 5.5, 5.5. Over here. Now with these ribs, all you can do is try and approximate. So this rib turning in has a shallower turn in than the other one does. So the piece of tape looks like, or the inside of that tape is going to work on that. If I want to use a shear, I need to make my cuts first. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this edge off and this angle off. I'm going to leave this end long until I'm done, and I'll just cut it with a saw or a cutoff wheel. And then I'm gonna, if I've got the 45-degree roll, I'll save this for when I'm doing the other ribs. If I don't have the 45-degree roll, I'm gonna have to put that bend in first, and then I can do my these 3 bends and then this angle bend over here. So go out to the other shop and get started on that. Okay, well, I do not have 45-degree die for that roller over there. So, gotta bend that one down and then the other one up. Guys, I'm sorry. I just went back to check the camera there so I could move it to the roller for doing the ribs, and hadn't realized that I had either quit or I had neglected to push the record button. So apologize. What we've got is I bent the 45-degree ribs first. You can see how they get damaged when having to rebend them for the opposite direction or perpendicular to them. So I'll have to hammer and dolly that area a little bit to get the shape right still. And then I bent these 3 ribs here, and then this one. And I find that I'm a little better off if I overbend than if I underbend them, so I get them as close as I think I can eyeballing, and then I just take them on the ground and start pushing them back whichever way I need them. They're all within about 1 or 1.5 degrees of where they need to be, and then I'll just form them a little bit more once I get them on the car. Now what's left is to run these ribs on the bead roller.
Thanks for watching Allison Customs Project Car TV. Like us on Facebook and check us out at AllisonCustomsOnline.com.